Well, good morning. Um, I'm going to actually start on the book of Ezekiel. I'm going to start on chapter 1 right now. I am still working on 2 other books in the New Testament, which I'll be back to do in a bit. But I thought, Ezekiel was a priest and a prophet for God, and his name means God is strong. Ezekiel lived when Jerusalem was destroyed, and he wrote this book for the Jews who had to move away from their land. And he told the people about their sin, but he also told them about God's promise. God still loved his people, and he promised to care for them and protect them. So here we go. The Lord gives Ezekiel visions of his glory. Okay. I was 30 years old. I was with my people, and he had been taken away from our country. We were by the Kabar River in the land of Babylon. On the 5th day of the 4th month, the heavens were opened, and I saw a vision of God. It was the 5th day of the month. Jehoiakim, I don't know, had been king of Judah. It was the 5th year since he had been brought to Babylon as a prisoner. A message from the Lord came to me. I was by the Kabar River in Babylon, and the power of the Lord came on me there. And I am Ezekiel the priest, the son of Buzi. I looked up and saw a wind storm coming from the north. I saw a huge cloud. The fire of lightning was flashing out of it. Bright light surrounded it, and the center of the fire looked like glowing metal. I saw in the fire something that looked like 4 living creatures. They appeared to have the shape of human beings, but each of them had 4 faces. Now imagine something the shape of us, but with 4 faces and 4 wings. And of course, we know that in heaven there are creatures with wings. So he's describing them perfectly. Their legs were straight. Their feet looked like feet of a calf, and they were as bright as polished bronze. The creatures had human hands under their wings, on their 4 sides. All 4 of them had faces and wings. The wings of one touched the wings of another. Each of the creatures went straight ahead. They didn't change their directions as they moved. Here's what their faces looked like. Each of the 4 creatures had the face of a human being. On the right side, each had the face of a lion. On the left side, each had the face of an ox. Each one also had an eagle's face. That's what their faces looked like. Wow. I'm trying to picture that. And it's so different to us because we're just, wow. And they each had 2 wings that spread out and lifted up. And each wing touched the wing of another creature on either side. They each had 2 other wings that covered their bodies. All the creatures went straight ahead. Anywhere their spirits would lead them to go, they would go. They didn't change their direction as they went. The living creatures looked like burning coals of fire or like torches. Fire moved back and forth among the creatures. It was bright. Lightning flashed out of it, and the creatures raced back and forth like flashes of lightning. As I looked at the living creatures, I saw wheels on the ground beside them. Each creature had 4 faces. And here's how the wheels looked and worked. They gleamed like topaz. All 4 of them looked alike. Each one seemed to be made like a wheel inside another wheel at right angles. It sounds familiar. The wheels could go in any one of the 4 directions the creatures faced. The wheels didn't change their direction as the creatures moved. Their rims were high and terrifying. All 4 rims were full of eyes all the way around them. He said terrifying. When the living creatures moved, the wheels beside them moved. When the creatures rose from the ground, the wheels also rose. Anywhere the spirits would lead them to go, they would go, and the wheels would rise along with them. That's because the spirits of the living creatures were in the wheels. When the living creatures moved, the wheels also moved. When the creatures stood still, they also stood still. And when the creatures rose from the ground, the wheels rose along with them. And that's because the spirits of the living creatures were in the wheels. Something that looked like a huge space was spread out above the heads of the living creatures, and it gleamed like crystal. It was terrifying. The wings of the creatures were spread out under the space. They reached out toward one another. Each creature had 2 wings covering its body. And when the living creatures moved, I heard the sounds of their wings. It was like the roar of rushing waters. It sounded like the thundering voice of the mighty God. It was like the loud noise an army makes. When the creatures stood still, they lowered their wings. Then a voice came from above, in the huge space over their heads. They stood with their wings lowered. Above the space over their heads was something that looked like a throne made out of lapis lazuli. And on the throne high above was a figure that appeared to be a man. From his waist up, he looked like glowing metal that was full of fire, and from his waist down, he looked like fire. Bright light surrounded him, and the glow around him looked like a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day. That's what the glory of the Lord looked like. When I saw it, I fell with my face toward the ground. Then I heard the voice of someone speaking, and that's the end of chapter 1. I'll be back tomorrow to continue it because that's very interesting, and now you get an idea of what's waiting for us. But yeah, Ezekiel, the prophet, he said it, that some of these things he's looking at was terrifying. And you notice how other books in the Bible, it discusses how some of the people in it actually talked to an angel, and the angel was always saying, don't be afraid. But you wonder if it was something like that would make them feel that way, or, even for an animal to respond scared. But anyways, it's interesting. We'll be continuing on tomorrow, and then I'm going to head over to Thessalonians and Timothy. Those ones are actually almost done. They're very short books. So I'll be back.